what they see to be evidence for Jesus outside the biblical text, namely Jewish and Roman historians and writers, Josephus, Suetonius, Pliny the Younger, etc. I know you've researched these sources, so what are your conclusions as to their being corroborative sources?
First of all, Josephus off to one side. We'll talk about Josephus in a moment, but the remainder of them, so Tacitus' account of Nero burning Christians around 61 Common Era, the letters of Pliny to Trajan, Trajan's reply to Pliny, Suetonius' Life of the 12 Caesars, when he covers the same era of Nero and mentions the same thing as Tacitus, Nero burning Christians. All of these sources are evidence of Christians. That's what they are, and that's what they talk about. They don't actually mention the name Jesus, but that is, I think a few of them say Christ or Christos, but they don't mention Jesus. But that aside, they are talking about the people, the worshippers.
So Christianity.
Christianity. Yeah. So they are evidence of a religion, and they are evidence of followers of that religion. Now, if the Catholic and Protestant Church want to say, well, look, here are some letters. They are range from 60 to 150 Common Era, and they talk about Christians. Therefore, Jesus existed. Then we would have to say, well, okay, I've got a book in my library written by Firmicus Maternus, who's written a passage on the error of the pagan ways, when he explains the existence of all the pagan followers and the gods that they worship. So he mentions Mithra and Mithraites. Well, that would have to say that we've got a letter here that is mentioning Mithraites. Therefore, Mithras definitely existed. I've got books on ancient Nordic poems, and they mention the existence of Thor. So the fact that they mention the people that are following and worshipping Thor, and they mention Thor, well, then Thor existed. So you can see when you look at it from that point of view, to claim that because these letters and these passages mention Christians also means that Jesus existed is actually nonsensical and cannot be taken as proof in any sense. They prove nothing more than the existence of a religion and the existence of the followers of that religion. Josephus is a different kettle of fish. Does mention Jesus. So he says there was at this time a man, Jesus, if he could be called a man, for he was a doer of wonderful things, and etc., etc. And in about 128 words, kind of gives a short synopsis of the entire Jesus story, from birth to mission to his missionary, for 1 to 3 year missionary, his crucifixion and his resurrection, in about 128 words in one paragraph. Which isn't Josephus' style anyway. Josephus is apt to ramble on for pages and pages and pages about even small events. But the most interesting thing, it's in volume 18, it's chapter 3, paragraph 3. So it's 18.3.3. Now, around 177 Common Era, a writer called Origen, if I've pronounced that right, I think it's Origen, did a rebuttal against a guy called Celsus. So it was Origen contra Celsus, against Celsus, because Celsus wrote a full tract about the fact that Jesus actually wasn't divine, he was just a man. He was the son of a Roman soldier, Panther, and he was just doing magical tricks and people followed him. Origen's attempt was to disprove that and say, no, he was a divine character. And this is in 177 Common Era. And in Origen's work, he uses Josephus' books, his Antiquity of the Jews, and particularly he makes reference to volume 18, to take passages from Josephus' work to try and prove that Jesus was a divine figure and not just a man. But interestingly enough, he doesn't use 18.3.3 at all. He uses several passages, but not that passage. Now, you would think that if the idea was to prove that Jesus was divine, he'd make a beeline for that passage. That tells us quite certainly that in 177 Common Era, Origen's copy of Josephus' Antiquity of the Jews did not have that passage in it. 320 Common Era, Eusebius writes the history of the church. And suddenly Eusebius has a copy of Jesus' work which does have 18.3.3 passage inserted. And actually Eusebius is seen as the main culprit for actually inserting the passage. But we can tell from that this Josephus passage actually came about somewhere between 177 and 320 Common Era. Well, Josephus died in 100, so whoever wrote the passage, it wasn't Josephus. But the interesting thing is, that's a well-known fact. The Catholic Church, or the powers that be within the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, and most of the theological supporters actually know that, yet they still put Josephus forward as proof for the existence of Jesus. And I think the reason they do it is because they're hoping that the general public that they may be talking to don't know the full facts behind the Josephus.